The war in Korea was over. Captain, now Major Bennett Marco, had been reassigned to Army intelligence in Washington. It was, by and large, a pleasant assignment, except for one thing. Night after night, the Major was plagued by the same reoccurring nightmare.
Stop.
Another modern discovery, which we owe to the hydrangea, concerns the influence of air drainage upon plant climate. Many years ago, when I was traveling about the country, I noticed magnificent hydrangeas on the hills, where the air drainage was perfect, and very poor specimens, or perhaps none at all, in the valleys. Formerly, we used to consider sheltered valleys more favorable to plants than hilltops. But the avoidance of late spring and early autumn frost enjoyed by sites with good air drainage, where the cold air can drain safely away to lower levels, gives the hills a decided advantage. Thus, it was the hydrangeas that gave the first pointer in another modern discovery of horticultural importance. From this, it might appear that the hydrangea is a fairly simple plant, but there are more complications. The cultivation of hydrangeas was evolved from a number of varieties originally found in Japan, not all of which, of course, have the same characteristics. Two of them do not share the quality of producing blue flowers in mineral-rich soils.
Allow me to introduce our American visitors. I must ask you to forgive their somewhat lackadaisical manners, but I have conditioned them, or brainwashed them, which I understand is the new American word, to believe that they are waiting out a storm in the lobby of a small hotel in New Jersey, where a meeting of the Ladies' Garden Club is in progress.
You will notice that I have told them they may smoke. I've allowed my people to have a little fun in the selection of bizarre tobacco substitutes. Are you enjoying your cigarette, Ed?
Yes, ma'am. Yak dung. Oh, tastes good, like a cigarette should. Now then, comrade.
May I present the famous Raymond Shaw?
Young man, you've flown 8,000 miles to this dreary spot in Manchuria to see. Raymond, pull your chair over here by me, please. I am sure you've all heard the old wives' tale that no hypnotized subject may be forced to do that which is repellent to his moral nature, whatever that may be. Nonsense, of course. Oh, you note-takers might set down a reminder to consult Brenman's paper, Experiments in the Hypnotic Production of Antisocial and Self-Injurious Behavior, or Wells' 1941 paper, which was titled, I believe, Experiments in the Hypnotic Production of Crime.
Or, of course, Andrew Salter's remarkable book, Conditioned Reflex Therapy, to name only three. Or if it offends you that only the West is working to manufacture more crime and better criminals.
Against the modern shortages, I suggest Krasnogorsky's Primary Violence Motivation, or Serov's The Unilateral Suggestion to Self-Destruction.
My dear Jan, as you grow older, you grow more long-winded. And to get to the point, has the man ever killed anyone? Or has enough?
I apologize, my dear Dmitri. I keep forgetting that you're a young country and your attention span is limited. Tell me, Raymond, have you ever killed anyone?
No, ma'am.
Not even in combat?
In combat? Yes, ma'am, I think so.
Of course you have, Raymond. Raymond has been a crack shot since childhood.
Marvelous outlet for his aggressions. May I have the bayonet, please?
Not with the knife. with the hands.
With the hands?
Here, have him use this.
Ah, da. Raymond, whom do you dislike the least in your group here today?
The least?
That's right.
Well, I guess Captain Markham, ma'am.
Notice how he is always drawn to authority? That won't do, Raymond. We need the captain to get you your medal. Whom else?
Well, I guess Ed Mavoli, ma'am.
Ah, that's better. Now then, Raymond, take this scarf and strangle Ed Mavoli to death.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon.
Hey, Sarge, cut it up. What? Quiet, Ed, please. Now you just sit there quietly and cooperate.
Yes, ma'am.
Yo, 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 you little hoe. We are back for more episodes of Go Deep. Your mother is the worst. She's dying of thirst because all she does is eat salt and walk in the desert. All right. I hope y'all enjoyed the greatest song in the history of fucking life. I hope you did. That probably will win all kind of awards and go triple platinum. So, probably get more views than my podcast. But we are back in this bit for another one. Go Deep episode 214. 214. I thought I was gonna stop the fucking Meet the Fucker series, but I'm not gonna stop it. I gotta keep going because more information just keep coming out. It seemed like more people like this shit. More people just keep hitting me up. They hit me up after the last one and was like, nah, bro, you can't stop this shit. Blah, blah, blah. So I gotta keep it going. I think this is my niche. I think this is the fucker shit is where everyone likes to delve into, I guess. I don't know. I've been doing the fucker shit. I just guess y'all wasn't paying attention. I don't know. But I don't know. Marketing and branding may be a little bit better these days because I'm actually acting like this is a series. My whole podcast channel is actually about meeting the fuckers. I got a little sidetracked with fucking, interviewing people and letting them talk about shit that has nothing to do with the shit that I wanted to talk about. So, as you see, I haven't interviewed anyone in a long time because I had to get back on track. We got the movie. We got released the Snyder Cut. So now we got to deal with the fuckers on this planet who ruined our chances 3 years ago to have this Snyderverse and continuing to ruin our chances with these stupid ass movies they're greenlighting and all this news and shit. But we'll get into that. We will get into that. I was gonna interview or have some Watchmen on this show because it is 214, but I mean that didn't pan out like I wanted, but we still got time. We got nothing but time. We're gonna have the Watchmen back on here eventually. But as for now, we're gonna talk about more fuckers. But as for now, you have to listen to some music. After that, then we'll talk about fuckers. You know how it goes. Shit. So, Go Deep, episode 214. Your mother, let's see what rhymes with 14. I don't know, but your mother looks like a Dragon Ball Z character. Oh, yep. So let's get into some music. We'll be right back.
Look at this. Guess what you want?
Fuck by no friend, they taste like the water. Shake up a Sprite, pour up some yellow, roll up some cuckoo. You think it voodoo, have you on the moon, yeah. Papa told me, nigga gon' test you, bitch he gon' scratch you, but he gon' bless you. Gotta be careful whenever they catch you, you better boom, yeah. My nigga, dog, bro. What's up, my nigga? I love your song, dog. I love your song, nigga. I love your song, nigga. You gotta get that, man. Come get him on the camera, man. Come here, man. Tell him I love your music, nigga. Your shit raw, breezy. Baby, you raw the bitch, nigga. Stay up there and stay live, nigga.
Come break. I ain't know for that. I'ma do it. But I ain't gonna do it like they do it, cause I'ma speak that real shit at the same time. Like, it's just my first day out, you know what I'm saying? Look. First day out, already bad jig. Bad jig. I ain't scared of shit, but God is some bad puss. Yeah. You not really be with the shit. You not really did the shit. You not really be guilty for, but still go to court and play innocent. They try to do me like 50 Cent. They hit the cone with a high 8. 3 to the back, 1 to the head. You know we don't count shit below the weight. They try to do me like PLC. Try to be deaf in my code D. R.P. Sweet Giant John. That shit made me don't want to seal lean. I just hold up my head like my nose bleed. It's a drawing my seat on real nigga. But you know I'ma stuff for my whole team. Fuck you mean I'ma die by my little nigga. R.I.P. Shaq, yeah, he was the king. Fuck the police. Martin Luther King, then he was a dream. To the 30 bitch, he hit you with them beat. Honeycomb feel slipping through some things. Mentally, I'm thinking jail built for me. I wait for with Dunn, I wait for with G, I wait for with John. They got flip for me, straight out in the street. I'm all got to see. I'm under pressure, I want the extra. We been suppressed, up on barrels. They help us shoot better, it make it pure, yeah. Pure, yeah. No time to less, helm on the stretch. Talk with the devil, pad me the shelf. My dude, she tell me I gotta do better. No, I'm a fool, yeah. Fall by no friend, chain like the weather. Shake up a Sprite, pour us a yellow. Roll up some cuckoo, you think it voodoo, how you on the moon, yeah. Papa told me, nigga gon' test you, bitch he gon' stretch you, God he gon' bless you. Gotta be careful whenever they catch you. You better boom, yeah. Pop out at night, just like raccoon. Fall to the fade, boom, 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 wrong. I just put him on the tombstone. That be like brains, you dead wrong. Walk with the devil, talk with the devil. Deal what he said. George and Jay, must drop some doodle in my face. Cause I got shit on my head, sit on the bed. Can't get no rest, my uncle in the fed. Bricks of that, yeah. Stab me in prison, loud ties in the kitchen, left blood on the biscuits and egg. I live in the red, I get no fuck about what he say. Make me come pull up where he stay. Big homie P-Face, should've played on San Andreas. One of more mission than CJ. Ever been locked in the cell, receiving no mail. Falling out with nigga by 3-way. Shit and piss on all the guard. Need to talk to war. Been in it been for like 3 days. CO keep taking my Mac. Hard iron and rat. 3 bullet holes up in my back. Got me scratching like a cat. Can't sleep like that. Sliding straight through the hole. Ain't no light up in here though. We can't eat like that. Well, bitch, you gon' eat or you starve. So we had to eat in the dark. And that was just me and some car. I mean, look that. Swing on lit so hard. We used to eat in the car. We fall asleep in the car. Diddy ain't nothing but the law. Y'all saw how. Me to tell it all. Nigga tell it what he saw. You just a rat with some money. I ain't never had heart. My power you to take you when y'all was little boy. Y'all nigga know I'll break from the start. Same 100 call you to play for the park. Don't like on bar. Stay with that tart. You fuck around and get popped like a tart. Acting like Mark. Thinking you smart till you try to crank your car and go like a fart. It won't even start. Pew, that bitch don't even make no knock. Pew, that bitch don't even make no money press. I want the S, we been suppressed. Up on Berettas, they help it shoot better, it make it pew, yeah. Pew, yeah. No time to less, him on the scratch. Talk with death, pat me yourself. My Lucy tell me I gotta do better. She know I'm a goon, yeah. Fuck by no friend, chain like the world. Shake up a Sprite, pour us some yellow. Roll up some cuckoo, you think it voodoo, how you on the moon, yeah. Papa told, nigga gon' test, bitch he gon' stretch, God he gon' bless. Gotta be careful whenever they catch, you better boom, yeah. That how my first day I going like that right now. I'ma rock my shit, y'all, that real way, that brazen shit, y'all. I ain't y'all for real. That bitch was talking.
Hey, dude.
Hey, with that gang shit, stop playing, man.
Everything red. Everything red. You heard me. They already know what it is, man. Stop playing. I'm gonna go out.
Dog a real big speaker, man.
Yeah.
Y'all shut the fuck up and listen to this nigga, man. Yeah, man. Might learn
Braves are
something.
so brave.
All right, we're back for some more Go Deep. After listening to some music, I am, who was that? That was Honeycomb Brazy. Rest in peace to Honeycomb's grandparents. Jesus Christ, over the week, last week, someone came and murdered them and burned down their house while they were in it. That fucking sucks. Rest in peace. I know Honeycomb is out in these streets. And he probably got a lot of beef and a lot of retaliation. Them boys been trying to kill him ever since he got out of jail. I hope something turns out right in that situation. I don't know, man. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say, but rest in peace to the grandparents. Jay Prince, I hope you put your arms around Honeycomb and figure out some shit in these streets. Take care of these situations. Homeboy got lingering over his head. Because for those that don't know, Honeycomb Brazy is the South version of 50 Cent. He is that guy. He is about, I think his future is about to, if he survives Mobile, Alabama, he will blow up like 50 Cent did. The South version. He's the South version of 50 Cent. People talk about, you know, he be in this beef and shit he be saying. Yeah, but when you listen to his music, you know dude got a heart. You know dude cares about his people. You know dude cares about his family. You can just hear it. You can hear it. His music is really like a cry out for help. He probably want the world to feel like he thugging it, and he is thugging it, but he is at the same time he's crying out for help. He's telling you the shit that he done been through, but he's telling you he don't want to go through that shit. Even though if he have to go through it, whatever. Just listen to his songs, man. Brazy's songs on point. But let's get into this shit. More fucker shit. We are still talking about what the fuck is going on. If you looked at that intro, I've put that intro in Go Deep before. That intro is a piece of the original Manchurian Candidate. The Manchurian Candidate is a movie about, the original was about these Asians or these people in the East, like I've been saying forever. They got up and they figured out a way to mind control U.S. soldiers who was, you know, protecting the president and even mind control the president. And that's what this is all about, because what I've been saying about these fuckers and shit like that, you gotta watch, because so the fuckers are not American. Remember, America is from the West. America is the West. The fuckers are from the East. The fuckers grew up in times, ancient history, where, like I was saying, it was nothing but kings and rulers and dominance over the slaves. The West, well, let's say America, not England, because America got away from the kings of England and the queens and all that shit, and we came away to be, you know, the free guys. And that basically started, that mindset of being free started dominating the world, and everybody else wanted freedom. But the ancient kingdoms and all that shit of the East, they were already built, and they had, you know, rulership over these people for thousands of years. Who gives a fuck if the Americans wanted freedom? That's how they thought, because the Americans, you know, are new guys on the block. They're new kids on the block. So there's been this thing, America came up with capitalism, and, well, I don't know if we came up with capitalism, but that's our thing. Big fish eats the small fish, you know, whatever. If you want to be a big fish, you got to grow into being a big fish, you know. Then there's socialism that Russia was trying, and it was big government just hands out an equal portion to everyone, and that kind of sucks too, because if big government don't want to hand out an equal portion, everyone dies and starves because they've been dependent on the government to feed them every fucking month. And or you had communism, where, you know, China, CCP has tried complete totalitarian fucking government where they can tell you to do anything and you got to do it. Like, you can't have more than one kid and shit like that. I used to date a girl from the one-child policy of China, you know, and we talk about that shit a lot. I didn't really even know all that shit China be doing, and, you know, then you have, like, again, I was going to say socialism with the Nazis. Nazi is National Socialist Party. But they were dictatorship. Hitler was going to rule the whole shit. And if they take over the whole world, Hitler was going to rule the world. Insert America. Now we were like, oh, fuck that. Nobody's going to rule us. And we're going to fight you for that. In fact, we're going to fuck you up for that shit. But the thing about it is the fuckers were all over the place, you know? So the fuckers were, some of the fuckers, the George Bush family and a lot of our bank fuckers that came over here from other countries, and then they changed their name to some American shit. A lot of these people, names are not who their names are. They changed them so they can hide that they really were a fucker, you know? So, as everybody should know, these fuckers came over here and they changed the way of America's thinking. Because they, like I said, they couldn't beat us up. They couldn't do any of that shit. So they changed how we thought. So then what happens is when they change your thinking, they could kind of chip away at your morality and chip away at your, you know, way you act. And that's what happened. But how they did it, we're just gonna keep fast forwarding. How they did it was this program called MK Ultra. Now I told you the fuckers were here already. They were just chilling and hiding like they were Americans. But while they were playing along, being Americans, they were doing these little projects called MK Ultra. MK means mind control. It doesn't, not MC, it's MK because the K is German. Control. So they did it in Russia. They did it in fucking America. They probably was doing it everywhere that they went and landed and hid and did all this bullshit. So the MK control started just tricking everyone, changing everyone, and they were doing it. I'm focused mainly on America. They started, you know, in the 60s, or now they probably started in the 50s. And then they started controlling people to have these, you know, like they started pushing the racism tendencies a little bit more. And then you started seeing all the fucking civil rights marches coming and all this shit like that. But what that really does is, black people, we needed our equal rights, but when we look at it, it's not beneficial to us. We were fighting about, we want to fucking eat at the same restaurants as you and shit like that. But all it really was is they figured out a way to tax everybody now, it's bullshit. It's all mind control, but they push your buttons to make you fight for it. But also what you're doing is destabilizing your country. So all these southern states, they couldn't move forward because they were being destabilized. They were under a place of crisis, but it's all in your mind. It's all in your mind. You're fighting in your mind because you're like, somebody told you, hey, y'all boys, you should probably go out and march and be equal, or you should, these white people don't really like you like that. You should go burn their house down, and you know what I'm saying? But it's someone preaching this shit to you, and then you're like, oh yeah, you're right, and you get amped, and then you go do some dumb shit, but you totally take the blood off the hands of the people who are actually preaching it to you. And that's what you got to understand, because that you even see that today. And I see that a lot in our Snyder Cut movement, in our chat rooms and shit like that. There be people that always come in and try to, give you a little narrative and instigate some beef, but they don't be the ones that's fighting. They be the ones that try to sneak that shit in and slide that idea to you to make everyone fucking go crazy and go amp and then go out and fight other people. But the people who actually started the fight are not the ones on the timeline fighting. So you can kind of see it in the movement also. You can see it in every movement you're in. You just got to know what you're looking for. There's always these little, and I put Rasputin in there because that's what Rasputin was doing. Remember on Lord of the Rings, there was a dude named Wormtongue who was speaking in the king's ear, and he had the king all fucked up and looking dead and decrepit, and spider webs all over him and shit. That was Rasputin. That's what he was doing. These people, and there's another video I'm gonna put that show. I know I'm going all over the place. There's another video I'm gonna put that showed this girl who was under mind control. She called it Illuminati mind control, but I guess Illuminati is the key word for all of this shit going on. But whatever. These are certain groups of fuckers that's been out since ancient history, and they're doing these guys can walk around and fucking look like normal people in America, but behind the scenes they're these sex trafficking devils and shit that, all these people got stories of being beat, being fucked up, being, raped and all this shit. And then they telling their story about how, while this shit was going on, they're, whipping them and speaking some devil shit. And all of that shit is what been going on forever, but it just hasn't been going on in America. So it's a bunch of countries, we call ourselves the melting pot, but when a bunch of countries come in here and do their own shit, it takes away from the American culture, because it's all right, y'all could go do all this ritualistic shit you want to, but do that shit in your country. Don't come over here and try to change our laws and do it in our country. And then what you do is you change our laws where now it's a part of our country. These fucking, these transsexual dudes that's walking around playing women's sports now, trying to act like they're women. But this was some shit that wasn't in our culture. Some raggedy ass fucker that just liked to do stupid shit came over here and changed that and put it into our law system, where now it's a part of our culture, and we don't agree with it, but we can't do shit because we didn't kill it in the beginning. We didn't kill it when that shit was just a little thought. slipped into your head by some fucker who's trying to keep the blood off of his hands. That's what they do. They slip it into your fucking ear and make you do it. And then they influence you with shit like that. So and 10 years later, you see it where it's in the law system, you know, or like it will start off with like LGBT or whatever. And you're like, all right, that's cool. You know, gay people are allowed to have rights and shit like that. But, you know, then it goes to Q, and then it goes to pedophile. And then now you're like, damn, dog, we don't want no pedophilia to have rights. But you should have stopped it when it was just LGBT. Because, you know, gay people, they're allowed to do what they want. I say they should be, you know, they can have sex with whoever they want to have sex with. They also should be allowed to marry who they want to marry. But here's what you can't allow groups like that to go and make it political. Just, you know what I mean? You can't, we shouldn't be trying to stop them from doing it, but you should stop them when it's a political argument, because it just keeps going and going and going. You should be allowed to do whatever you do behind closed doors, sexually, if it's not hurting anybody, but politically, calm down, because your insertion of your political argument is going to be taken by someone else and just continue. So but when you got to know history, all this Aleister Crowley shit and all this shit like that, this Rasputin shit and all this ancient sex history, this is what they wanted to do. They've been doing this for thousands of years. That's why I put a Rasputin in the video last time. He was the free sex guy, you know. So when we now flying these, you know, flags of rainbow shit, that's their shit that they implemented in our country slowly. But we can say, oh yeah, that's cool, you know, but you don't know what the end game is. That's what the end game. You might think that they're just talking about, oh, lesbians and gays should be able to get married. That's just the beginning of it. They just give you this little bit and keep going, and like boiling a frog. They keep turning it up slower and slower and slower. And by the time the frog even knows he's boiling, it's too late. That's how they implement change in America. Who's the change president? Obama. He's probably not even American. You know, that was the big thing. Obama was like, yo, show me your fucking birth certificate. They had something to that. Obama came out of nowhere, and they were like, oh, he was just in Hawaii, you know. Nobody really knew this guy, but when you look at all his history, Obama was trained by fucking Bernardine Dohrn and Bill Ayers, who I just showed you last time. Bernardine Dohrn's name is Orstein. Orstein is not an American name. It's a fucker name. You know, it's from somewhere else. And then these people, they play like they're American. They trick and they keep preaching and preaching and preaching, and they trick people. So all these people, that's what happens. Even in today's time, these people get tricked into doing these shit. They come up with these movements and act like, oh yeah, this is right. We gotta have free sex and blah, blah, blah. But they don't know that these are some ancient time fucker shit that the new fuckers have tricked you into implementing into your own area. So the new fuckers are usually working with the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, where they're not supposed to really be working in American soil, but they have, because their job, or what they've been doing lately, I don't know when it started, but what they've been doing, they've been chipping away at American society, because they need drones, or not drones as in the sky, people drones. They need stupid robots to do what they're wanting to do, because they're not even supposed to be working here, and they're not even supposed to be doing most of the shit that they're doing. So how do they do it? With mind control techniques. Mind control techniques that has been started by the Nazis. Well, probably been out before the Nazis, but been used by the Nazis. So these mind control techniques, they start tricking everyone. And it's usually with this slick talking fucker who nobody knows, but he seems to know everything about everything, and he just tricking everybody to do all kind of bullshit that he wants you to do. But he slides in the background when the shit goes off, and he act like, oh, I'm just a nice guy, I want love and peace for everyone. That's bullshit, because he is the one that's been doing all the fuck shit. He is the one that's been starting the fuck shit. He's the one that's been, tricking everyone to do this fuck shit. So this is what's been going on. Now, these mind control things, they do them with a lot of shit. And when you look at Epstein, another fucker name, not John Smith or Williams or any American shit, there's some fuck shit. So what he was doing, instead of tricking people, he would blackmail them. So he would have tapes on people who would, whether they forcefully fucking rape and murder kids or whether they do it sneakily, and Epstein and his people would have tapes. That's how Hollywood literally started, with these tapes on big people. When you look at, remember the movie, The Godfather? They had a tape of the politician having sex and killing a prostitute or some shit, and then they own the politician, even though he probably didn't do it. He probably just had sex with her. But, that's how it goes. Or remember that movie Saw? That movie where they were locked in this room and they had to do some crazy shit. Saw is about all of this shit that I'm telling you about. It's like these secretive people that trap you into a fucking blackmail case or whatever, and you got to do some crazy shit to get out, and you probably won't get out. But the thing was like a jigsaw puzzle, because the guy who trapped you was way smarter than you. All of this shit goes on every day in this world, especially in America, because America is the culture capital of the world. So if Americans start doing something, it will quickly spread around the whole world. So they have to keep tricking us into doing dumb shit so we can change the world. But we're changing it just like with the fucking transsexuals and sports and shit. We're changing it for the worse. But we don't know that because we are brainwashed. We are mind controlled. So when you saw all these girls wearing Chucks and pearls and acting like Kamala Harris was the best thing since sliced bread, they don't even know who the fuck Kamala Harris is. But they don't know her record. They don't know shit. But they're so brainwashed to know, oh shit, the news and the other people told us to do this, so we're going to do it just because we don't even know why. But they don't know that, she's probably a fucker from ancient times that's doing some dumb shit when you know where she come from, the San Francisco area, locking up all these black people to keep them slaves in the penal system. That's what she was doing and making money. But when you don't know this shit, you're brainwashed to supporting this shit. So then when you know Obama picked Biden picked Kamala, fucking Bernardine Dorn and Bill Ayers taught Obama. Bernardine Dorn's son is the district attorney of San Francisco. It all makes sense. Obama never left. This is still the Obama crew. This is still the Weather Underground crew. Look at my last podcast. They're the ones that's been blowing up shit in America forever and talking about they're going to change America. It's the same shit Obama did. Said he was going to change America. What came under Obama? Black Lives Matter. The same niggas running around blowing shit up. It's the same shit. The same shit. Where did all this mind control shit, this free sex, gay love start happening? In San Francisco. Where did all the LSD experiments start happening? Pimping and entrapping and all this shit? In Oakland, San Francisco. Where is all this big tech shit happening in Oakland, in San Francisco? Big tech is Oracle and, Silicon Valley shit. Centering in Oakland and San Francisco. Where Big Hero 6 come from? San Francisco. Pay attention. Everyone's telling you this shit. You just don't fucking know. You just don't understand it. This is what my podcast is about. So I'm going to jump out of here and I'm going to let somebody else tell you some more shit. And then we're going to, I guess, get into some more shit next episode. Who knows? But just keep following because I'm breaking this shit down bit by bit. You just got to follow it. You just got to know what I'm talking about. Once you know what I'm talking about, you're going to be so on point. I'm going to have a fucking... we're just changing the world, bro. We're just changing the world. With $10,000, a CIA agent with $10,000 and 2 prostitutes can take over a country. You did not know that. We have more than $10,000 and I have more than 2 prostitutes. So we're going to reverse this shit. You bitch!
Man switch left by Isaac Cappy, who had received access to Jeffrey Epstein videotapes from some member of I call them I've heard a black hat hacking group, a young group of hackers that had hacked into one of the 10 intelligence agencies' computer systems, provided those files to Cappy, and apparently Cappy had given out a password, and then to someone else had given out the files. So anybody that had the files needed the password.
Got it.
I was asked to take that password and to put it out there, not to put the password out, but to tell people that I had it. During the time period that I told people that I had it on social media, I was aware that if my information was right, and I believed it was credible, that I probably had 10 of the world's leading spy organizations wanting to kill me. So it was a risky procedure, but I took the risk. I also, though, gave that information to other people, created my own dead man switch. I won't name the people I gave it to, but I asked them to put it under lock and key, not to look at it, but if I was found dead or some alleged suicide, I told them to give it to the following people. That was my protection. I still took risks because they could have grabbed a friend or a family member and said, we're going to shoot this person if you don't tell us who you gave it to. They would have had to shoot my family or my friend because I was never going to give it up. Because I knew they'd kill him anyway. They'd kill me and they'd kill the people that I'd given it to. I eventually put it out publicly what the password/key was. Now I'm safe. It's out in the open. If it turns out that it was solid information, then it could be, over time, information that reveals a lot of very perverted and criminal activity involving children. Did I mean to say that it's done like that in every instance? No. I was quoting directly what I had been told by a source who hired me so that there would be attorney-client privilege and I would not have to identify that person's name. They were scared. So, does it mean that they walk in with a gun, a camera, a little child? No, but that's the procedure as described to me. Maybe they have someone that's voluntarily having sex with a minor, and then they tell them that it's videoed. Then they got control over them by blackmail. Maybe they actually go to the step of having them harm or kill a child. Then they've really got total control of them by blackmail on video. Do I think that that exists in this world from a variety of other information I've received? A little information here, somewhere else that connects up the dots where it makes sense to me that that is done in this world? Yes. I think there's so much that has to be revealed to the public that it's going to be so shocking the public is not going to want to believe it. But I believe what we do know is that there is a pandemic in this world of child sex trafficking. What is happening to these millions of children that are missing? Why does the media not look into it day and night? Why isn't our government spending its resources to find out what's being done to these children?
Well, let's talk about that real quick here.
I do think it relates to pedophilia. And I'll tell you straight up, I believe it relates in large part to satanic rituals of worship where children are sacrificed.
Now, people like Isaac Kappy, who, let's just say it what it was. He was an actor who had some early success, and in recent years, hadn't had a big hit or anything, and many speculated that he was trying to get attention for talking about the Hollywood pedophilia ring that he was discussing. But then, can you tell us what happened to Isaac Kappy after he started sharing his concerns about what he believed to be the Hollywood pedophilia ring? What happened to Isaac, and how did he die?
So that's the key. He died young age. And I don't have the details of his death, but I think that some people have described it as claiming that he jumped off of a bridge onto oncoming traffic and was run over. I know there are other people that dispute that as being a credible explanation of his death. There are probably some people out there that dispute whether or not he actually died or whether it was staged so that he could escape. I don't know. All I know is that the reports are that Isaac Kappy died under strange circumstances. So, again, it needs to be investigated. There's so many things out there where people have died under alleged suicide or other strange circumstances. Why are they not being investigated? I raised an issue over the summer about the fact that John Roberts' name, the name John Roberts, appeared on 2 of the publicly released flight itineraries on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. And I said, was this Chief Justice John Roberts or not? Why doesn't someone look into it? And they go, well, there's a lot of John Roberts. Wait a minute. Not every John Roberts is going to be flying on Jeffrey Epstein's jet. If it's the Chief Justice John Roberts, the public needs to know it.
Right.
John Roberts ought to be on television saying, I didn't do it. Then we'd know. But we don't know it. He hasn't denied it. So it needs to be investigated. What in the world have I done wrong to try to expose questions that need to be answered and investigations that may need to be pursued? I don't think I've done anything wrong. I think I've lived up to the highest standards of my profession. I believe in the rule of law.
Now I'm going to put on the Justice Roberts Apologist fan club hat. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of people wearing that hat, but let's just say that I'm a fan of Justice Roberts. I love the fact that he ran, many people portrayed him to be a conservative, and then he's just consistently ruled against almost every conservative thing that he could have ruled, in favor of or against. But let's just say I am a Justice Roberts fan, if there is such a thing. You tweeted out that, I believe this was directed at Justice Roberts. You tweeted out, are you a member of any club or cabal requiring minor children as initiation fee? My information from reliable sources, Roberts arranged an illegal adoption of 2 young children from Wales through Jeffrey Epstein. I have linked Roberts to illegal adoption, Jeffrey Epstein pedophilia, and prior knowledge of Scalia's death. So that's 3 pretty big ideas there, Lynn. You're saying, you've linked Roberts to illegal adoption, Jeffrey Epstein pedophilia, and prior knowledge of Scalia's death. If somebody out there is a Justice Roberts fan, they would say, well, can you prove it? So what would your thoughts be?
Well, number one, it's not my job to prove it.
Okay.
I'm just a lawyer. The system of justice is supposed to investigate it and determine whether it's true or false, guilty or not guilty. So what I can tell you unequivocally is that what I said in that social media post is supported by the interview, the lengthy interview that I conducted and a colleague of mine conducted with a whistleblower that I found to be credible. So it's not Lynn Wood saying it. It's Lynn Wood telling you that I have credible evidence and it needs to be investigated. But let's stop and look at it. How many people in this country have heard kind of a rumor swirling around about Roberts and his children? I think a lot of people. Nobody's investigated it. I think that there's a question of him being on the Jeffrey Epstein flight logs. Look, Jeffrey Epstein admitted to crime related to pedophilia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been swirling around about Roberts. Nobody's investigated it. And then a lot of people have talked about the strange circumstances related to the death of Justice Scalia. Nobody's investigated it. Then I get information from a credible whistleblower suggesting that Roberts may have had involvement in those areas. It needs to be investigated. If Justice Roberts is clean as a whistle, then he deserves to be formally acquitted by the public and in the court of law. But if he's guilty of one or more of those, he needs to be off the bench. He has no business being on the Supreme Court of the United States of America. We don't put people on our bench that have those kinds of activities. So let's just find out the answer. If I'm wrong, it's only because my whistleblower's testimony proves to be wrong. But if you're investigating it, maybe you'll find more evidence than just the whistleblower. I was told that this whistleblower was the victim of frivolous cases brought against him criminally in Maryland. On my Twitter account, I put the case name and number up. I'm told that there was documents filed under seal, under alleged claims of national security. Somebody needs to open them up. Or if now all of a sudden they're missing, wouldn't that tell you something too? So, I haven't tried to say guilty or not guilty. That's not my place. I fight people that go out and falsely accuse my clients of being guilty. But they're not even liable if they had a reasonable basis to make the accusation. So I had a reasonable basis to make those posts, to say those things that I said. It was protected speech, and it was backed by what I believe to this day to still be credible evidence. I wouldn't be turning over something to the United States Secret Service that I thought was not credible.
Right.
I wouldn't send it to the State Bar of Georgia. I sent it also to a reporter when I asked her if she was interested in it. I sent it to the Wall Street Journal. Has anybody written about it yet? Has anybody gone in to try to find out what that lawsuit was about?
And I think what I want to
look, it involves Rod Rosenstein and Hillary Clinton too.
I want to bring
this whistleblower has a lot more to talk about than just Justice Roberts.
I just want to bring this up for people out there that don't know you. You have really nothing to gain by making accusations that are completely unfounded. Furthermore, very few attorneys know as much about defamation as you do, and so it really comes down to what is your motive. And I just want the listeners to think about this for a second. Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody out there knows that Jeffrey Epstein was by far the world's most well-known, most prolific pedophile. And after Jeffrey Epstein's conviction, that is when Bill Gates befriended Jeffrey Epstein. And I would just 6
times on his flight logs.
Yes. And I just want to ask you this, from just a friendship perspective. You now you live on a beautiful property, Lynn, and imagine you were going to invite somebody over for a dinner party, and you said, Clay, you get to invite 6 of your best friends over, 6 of your best friends, and then I give you their names, and I say, but here's the deal: they're really good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, just on a human level, would you allow people into your home that are good friends with Jeffrey Epstein?
No. Unless, which is not true, unless what Jeffrey Epstein did didn't bother me. So the answer is, it bothers me. What has been talked about and disclosed about Jeffrey Epstein should bother every American and people around the world. We're talking about abusing sexually minor children. So, if you wanted me to, if you said, Lynn, you can raise money for Fight Back Foundation, and you can fly on Jeffrey Epstein's plane and go down and talk to him and raise some money for your good, noble purpose, I'd say take a hike. I don't need anybody's money from Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
Why was Bill Gates down there 6 times? And why, when he came out, did they say, well, he's not really a friend? Some of the pictures would say otherwise. But they said he was just going down to seek donations for charitable purposes. That doesn't pass the smell test to me. My common sense says that doesn't make sense. You don't seek charitable donations from a man that's admitted to acts involving pedophilia. And if you're going to go down and talk to him and you're worth zillions or billions of dollars, or maybe $200 billion, and you got your own plane, fly your own plane down there. Don't get on the Lolita Express. So am I saying that Bill Gates is guilty? No. Am I saying that there's public knowledge that people ought to be questioning and investigating? Absolutely. I think anybody that is publicly identified as being on Epstein's island should be investigated because of what we know he was involved in. People will say, well, hey, I got pictures of him and Donald Trump. You bet you do. Who was trying to get around Donald Trump? Was Donald Trump trying to get around Epstein or Epstein trying to get around Trump? What I do know is that Donald Trump got information that Epstein had said something or done something inappropriately with a young person that worked at Mar-a-Lago, and Trump kicked him out of the club that night. So they're trying to smear Trump because of the pictures of him and Epstein. Look into it. You're not going to find Donald Trump was involved in pedophilia or any type of wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein. That's propaganda. So all I'm saying is it ought to be investigated. And why is it not being? These are rich and powerful people. We're talking about someone connected with the House of Windsor. We're talking about some of the most wealthy, powerful people in the world. Why is the media not investigating it? Why is law enforcement not investigating it? Why did Jeffrey Epstein get such a sweet deal back in 2000, I believe? Why was he pulled back in under the same basic factual scenario and put in jail again and then allegedly is murdered or committed suicide? Whatever you believe happened, it doesn't pass the smell test. So how did I get involved in it? Listen, I love children. I love them in a meaningful way. I don't love them because I have any inappropriate or perverted feelings for them. I believe that our humanity tells us to look after and protect the little children. And if we don't, what does it say about our humanity? So I have concerns about pedophilia. I have concerns about child sex trafficking. I've seen some of the videos. I've seen some of the pictures. I've seen evidence of what they're doing to these children. And they get some of these young people, they take a young girl, they get her involved in drugs, they use her sexually, and then they get tired of using her, they put her on the street. She's still into drugs. She goes into prostitution. And what does our society do? We put them in jail. For God's sakes, what are we doing to these children? And I feel strongly about the rule of law, and I love the Constitution. And I believe an honest election is required in order to sustain our Constitution. Why am I being attacked for doing the things that I believe everybody should be concerned about? And any lawyer worth his or her stuffing who cares about the rule of law, who cares about the Constitution, who cares about our election process, who cares about the little children, who cares about having good people in government, should be standing by my side and helping me lead the charge for truth. But yet I'm being smeared, and they're trying to take my law license. Do the math.
I'm seeing is that you'll say something that's true, and then you get attacked by the media on all sides, and then later on it's proved to be accurate later. So recently, I'm sure you saw the comments of Peter Navarro, who was the former director of trade and manufacturing under President Trump. He said, and I'm quoting, "What Mike Pence did to Donald J. Trump will go down as one of the greatest betrayals imaginable." That's a big statement right there. What Mike Pence did to Donald J. Trump will go down as one of the biggest, will go down as one of the greatest betrayals imaginable. Lynn, you took a lot of flack for initially saying that Mike Pence was betraying the president, and it came out that he did betray the president. In fact, if anybody listening right now wants to see the footage, after certifying the fraudulent election, Mike Pence received a coin of some kind. The footage is on C-SPAN, and I'll send it to all the listeners. He received some kind of coin, and then he elbow bumps Nancy Pelosi in a celebratory kind of way. What are your thoughts on Peter Navarro's recent comments where he said that Mike Pence, what Mike Pence did to Donald J. Trump will go down as one of the greatest betrayals imaginable?
I agree with him based on the facts that have been reported. And he's talking about the certification by Congress of the electoral votes. But let me go back. If you look at information that I posted, you'll find that Mike Pence betrayed Donald Trump in 2016. And And there are emails that show it when he was trying to undo the Trump-Pence ticket to get the Ryan-Pence ticket. That was betrayal number one. Then in 2017, according to the whistleblower, Pence colluded with Rod Rosenstein to try to have Trump, in effect, overthrown by the Russian collusion hoax. That's betrayal number two.
Wow.
Then you get to 2020, and you find what appears to not make sense. Why wouldn't Pence simply ask for there to be an investigation of the objections to the votes in these various states where they were challenging them for fraud? He didn't do his job. He didn't serve the American public. The American public simply wants to know the truth. Look, if it turns out, which it never will because I've seen the evidence, if it turns out that Joe, I call him Joey Bribes Biden, I think he's owned by China. I've seen it, his son, I've seen a censored version of Hunter Biden's laptop.
It's crazy.
Censored meaning it doesn't include videos and pictures of pedophilia. But I've seen it. It has evidence of connections financially to China involving not only Hunter Biden, but Joe Biden. So, you know, when you look at what Pence involvement is, there are questions and rumors about Pence. Now, I'm not going to accuse someone, but I know the whistleblower's testimony reveals some things that, let's just say, reveal, if true, that Mike Pence is not at all what Mike Pence holds himself out to be.
And
so,
yet,
does the public need to know it? Yes. Does the public want to know it? Unfortunately, I think too many members of the public want to turn a blind eye to it because it's so bad that you don't want to believe it's true.
Right.
But if we're going to fix our country, if we're going to return to the way we started off as a country under God with freedom, where people had an opportunity with their hard work and the knowledge and the ability that God gave them to succeed, then we've got to face the truth as a country. We cannot continue to sweep this stuff under the rug. We can't let it be rumors and cocktail talk. We've got to have serious people looking into it. If it's true, face it. If it's not true, thank God we move on. But we cannot continue to ignore it.
The Bible instructs us in Matthew 5:11, Matthew chapter 5, verse 11. It states, "Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake." Modern translation, I know we shouldn't paraphrase the Bible, but this is the summary how I see it, is no good deed goes unpunished, but if you're being punished for doing a good deed on behalf of God, that's a good thing. Your friend, Sidney Powell, a woman who so many of our listeners love, a great American who really worked tirelessly to expose the 2020 election fraud, and a woman who put together a 270-page report showcasing irrefutable evidence of widespread election fraud. She's now being sued, I believe, by the Dominion voting systems or the Dominion voting machine. Tell us about what's happening with Sidney Powell, and I believe that she has hired you to help her in the defamation case. Educate us about the facts versus the fiction related to Sidney Powell and the current defamation case.
Sidney Powell is a truth giver. Look at her career. Look at the body of her life's work as a professional. Look at how she got the truth exposed with respect to what was being done to General Michael Flynn, who is himself a truth giver and a man of God, who loves this country. Sidney Powell, boy, oh boy, we need a lot more Sidney Powells in the legal profession.
Amen.
She's a truth giver. So Sidney Powell gets sued by Dominion. $1.3 billion. Wow. I made the joke on social media that between the Dominion case and another one they filed against her for $1.2 billion, I think that was filed by Smartmatic, they were going to take away half of their life savings. Sidney Powell doesn't have $1.3 billion. Why do you sue her for that? Because you want a headline. You want an attention-grabbing headline. Now let's talk the truth of defamation law. Tell your viewers, I would urge them to go watch a movie called Kill Chain. It's a documentary. It'll talk about Dominion. You're going to see about Dominion from that movie that came out before the 2020 election. Go take a look at the order entered on October the 11th, 2020 by federal judge Amy Totenberg in a lawsuit brought by the Democrats for the purchase of Dominion machines. She had days of expert testimony. She concluded that fraud with respect to the Dominion machine wasn't a matter of if it would happen, but when it would happen. It happened 3 weeks later. So then let's look at what we've learned since then. Sidney Powell, because I've seen her do it, I spent a lot of time with her and General Flynn, and they were coming up with, investigating, and finding a mountain of evidence that said that Dominion was involved in voter fraud. She told the truth. She filed lawsuits. And now Dominion sues her for defamation, for a headline. But in the law of defamation, Dominion has the legal burden of proving that Sidney Powell's statements were false. They can't do it. They'll never be able to show it. The evidence will be to the contrary, that she had a reasonable factual basis to file the lawsuits and to make the public statements. So I know enough about defamation law that if somebody says you committed voter fraud as a matter of fact, and that person sues you, they've got the burden of proving that they didn't do it. That's a hard burden. Only the truly falsely accused file defamation cases. Dominion filed that case, in my opinion, for a headline, to try to get Sidney Powell not to talk about him anymore, to scare off other people around the country, to not talk about Dominion anymore under the threat of suit. They're trying to suppress our speech. They're trying to intimidate us from taking action. They're not going to win. This is America. We have freedom of speech, and we have the right to take actions that are lawfully based. Sidney Powell did nothing wrong. I don't think Dominion, when it gets into discovery, and Sidney has the right to go into their files and their emails and their documents, I don't think they want to open up that Pandora's box. Do you?
I don't think they do.
I think it is a meaningless propaganda headline. But if they want to follow through, as long as my law license has not been revoked, I'll lead the charge for Sidney Powell. You go out and ask anybody to sit with me for 8 hours on cross-examination, most people will tell you it was the worst experience of their life. Not that I play within the rules. I don't sit there and listen to nonsense. If somebody says something to me that doesn't make sense, I go for it. Because it takes a thorough and sifting examination to reveal the truth when somebody's trying to hide it from you. They don't want me in the arena. That's why they're trying to attack me and get rid of my law license. They're not going to be successful. When God said, Jesus said, as you quoted, paraphrased from the Bible, if they hate you, they hated me first.
Yeah.
They hate the truth.
You're doubling
they
down.
Come after the messenger because they can't prove. They hate the message. They can't attack the message because it's true, so they attack the messenger. It's the same thing they did with Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
They came up with a false charge of blasphemy. They stirred up the crowd, got him in a frenzy where the crowd was yelling, Jesus is crazy. Jesus is guilty. Kill him. They killed him. They killed the Son of God. And in the process of reacting to the frenzy where they were attacking the messenger, they forgot about the body of Jesus' life work. He healed millions. He performed more miracles than there was paper to record it in the Bible. But they didn't kill the message, did they? They didn't kill the message, did they? They elevated the message. So when they attack Sidney Powell, when they attack me and they think they're going to tear down the messenger, they better watch out.
Lynn,
because if the message is truth, it will be elevated. They will bite themselves in the you-know-what behind because it will elevate the message if you try to attack the messenger falsely.
Lynn, I have one final question for you, and then I have a guest in the studio here who wanted to ask you a few questions here. This year, the year 2020, 2021, I mean, if anything crazy happened, I would say, oh, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, it's almost like nothing can shock me at this point, but something did shock me. We had the CEO of Disney on February 25th. He resigns, Bob Iger. The CEO of Hulu, January 31st. He resigns. The CEO of IBM, Jeannie Rometty, resigns. The CEO of LinkedIn, February 5th, resigns. The CEO of Salesforce, Velocity, he resigns February 25th. The CEO of MGM, February 12th, 2020, resigns. The CEO of MasterCard resigns The CEO of Harley Davidson, Matthew Levitic, resigns. The CEO of Tinder, OkCupid, Hinge, resigns. Lynn, what's going on with all these top CEOs resigning, these CEOs of these multinational companies? Why is everybody resigning all in late January, February? What's going on?
I wish I knew, but I think if we stay patient, every lie, every truth will be revealed, and we'll know. But I will say you've had some strange deaths too. A 47-year-old member of the Rothschild family,
right?
Some other people have allegedly jumped out of buildings. I mean, there's something going on. You're right. This is not normal. Something's going on. Doesn't make sense to have all these CEOs resign. But let me go back, and I don't mean to use this as an answer to your question, but I think it's something the public needs to know. The value of blackmail, if it, let's say, involves sexual acts with a child, it has great value to control someone. But if people learn about how to make deep fakes, which is something people need to learn more about because they're going to hear more about it in the future. A deep fake video is like a photoshopped photograph where they could make deep fakes of this person having sex with other children. And then when they're confronted with the blackmail evidence, says, hey, we got you on this video, you could look over and have plausible deniability. You can say, oh, that's just a deep fake. There's 10 of them out there. The value of your blackmail goes down. And so then all of a sudden maybe you start selling it before it loses all of its value. Whether that's what's going on, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me because the website that the Kathy Key takes you to has a lengthy explanation of deep fakes. I know I saw one the other day with Queen Elizabeth. It was a Christmas message. And let me tell you, you could sit there and watch it, and you think, well, the Queen's, she's on top of her game. That's her. And then all of a sudden she gets up and dances. And then at the end, the camera shows you that it was a lady with short black hair, a young woman, that was creating the image for the deep fake.
Oh.
So I will tell you now, when people look over and say, well, Joe Biden gave one of the finest speeches when he accepted the nomination of the Democrats, I watched it. I said, man, this guy, it's unbelievable. He used to be where he couldn't make 3 sentences. It made sense. And he was almost perfect. Was that a deep fake?
I feel like I'm
body double.
I feel like
I don't know, but I think we got to find out because let me tell you, go back and watch the movie from some time ago, I think 1996 or 7, called Wag the Dog, where they created a war to try to get a candidate out of trouble because of sexual accusations. Let me tell you, the media can do a lot more now than it could do 25 years ago. I think the American public is watching a false reality. I think a lot of what we're seeing that looks real is fake. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I tell you, I think we've got to find out. We need to search for the truth. I try to search for the truth, and if I get what I believe is truth, I'm willing to speak it. If we all speak truth and be fearless, we could get to the bottom of some of these things that are so wrong and corrupt in our country, and we could get back to having a good and decent and honest society. Everybody ought to want that.
Lynn, I'm going to put an example.
People that profit off it being illegal and corrupt. They don't want it.
Lynn, I'm going to put a link out there for the listeners out there. This is a show called the Monkey Works show, Monkey Works. And you were talking about Wag the Dog. And if everybody goes to Monkey Works and looks for I'll tell you what, if you're listening right now, just fire me off a text and I'll send this to you. Just text me at 918-851-6920, 918-851-6920. And I will share a deep fake that was pulled from John McCain's laptop where you can see what many people thought was a beheading. And you can see the Hollywood studio where the fake beheading was taped and it looks real and everyone believed it's real. And I'll send that's just one example of a deep fake that I can share for everybody. Or if you're listening out there, you can go to YouTube and look for the Monkey Works channel. Monkey, like the word monkey, and then Works, W-E-R-X, the Monkey Works channel. You can go there and look for the video, What is Real? And at the 3:12 mark, you can watch the video. And it's mind-blowing.
You just needed it. Like so we're talking, you know, when the people describe these like predators as like just like hungry, eat like animals almost. Like we're talking about someone who is just an animal. Like at that point, he's not thinking. He's just
fucking.
Yeah.
Basically. They do almost. It's not really a everyday mentality, is it? These people are sort of turned over time to become this kind of character.
Psychopathic, child predators. It's unique. Yeah, there's not many. I don't believe there's many at that level of wealth. You know, Bill Clinton's got that. He was on the Lolita Express. What was it, 26 times?
So can you explain what that means? The Lolita Express.
Okay, so Epstein had the Pedophile Island, which I mentioned earlier, and he also had the Lolita Express, which was a plane with a bed. So it was out of any legal jurisdiction. It's flying around. He's got the victims trapped in this, you know, into the sky, basically, on this plane, and the girls were servicing the customers on the Lolita Express. Now,
how do you know Bill Clinton was on this, sorry?
Okay, one of the things that gave me a head up on who the conspirators are, the main suspects in the murder, are the people who protested the most about their innocence. And right away, Bill Clinton came out and disavowed Epstein. He then said he'd only been on his planes 4 times. But according to the flight manifest...
Okay, so this is the log that will have it.
Clinton was on it almost 30 times that we know of, at least.
If you're going to have a paedophile plane, why keep a log manifest? Why?
Is that sort of the law, though, that if someone gets on a plane...
There are aviation laws.
Right, so you have to log every person who gets on that plane.
Yeah. Which makes it sort of a stupid plan in the first place.
Well, it's also very stupid of Clinton to say only 4 times when he's going to be rumbled for it. So...
Well, they can do whatever they want and get away with it, so they don't care.
Has it come out that he's been on, or is it just you and a few others?
No, it's generally accepted that Clinton has lied, that Clinton was on this Lolita Express almost 30 times, and that Clinton is deep in the mix, and that Epstein it follows the trajectory of Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. And people wonder why Hillary found it so easy to forgive Clinton for fucking Monica Lewinsky, and it's like that was literally the tip of the iceberg, and she was well aware of it.
That Monica Lewinsky thing was a publicity smokescreen for all the other stuff that was going on in Clinton's life at that point in time. He had multiple rape suits filed against him that he settled out of court.
All right.
So when you saw Hillary doing speeches and people showing up with Billy's a Rapist T-shirts during the election campaign, that's what was all about. And Trump actually brought to one of the events, he brought Bill's rape victims that he's settled with. They were all next to him in a row at one of the events.
So why...
Trump doesn't give a fuck, to be fair, like, does he?
Well, Trump has already said that he knew Epstein was a womanizer, but the difference between him and Epstein was that Epstein liked underage girls.
So
he liked young girls.
So why has Epstein got Trump's number so much in his book?
Well, they're all in the mix together, aren't they? They're just different mafias.
Right. But so Trump isn't exactly blameless in this, or he's not? We just don't have any proof of what he's done.
All these are different mafias that are at war with each other. You got the Bush and Clinton crime families working together. You got the Trump mafia working against the Clintons. They're saying he's working with the Russians. It's just warfare.
It's funny. It literally is just like gangsters, isn't it? But at such a level where they're untouchable.
They're untouchable. They don't have to raise a finger. They could kill anyone anywhere in the world.
They're all, but at the same time, it doesn't feel as glamorous as the real mafia. It doesn't feel as nice.
Well, they don't have the accents or the music. But
not only that,
or the meatballs.
They're also doing it. So the mafia, for me, always feels a little bit like they're trying to maintain a community. There's something about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like self-policing in Italy in some ways. And I know mafia did terrible things. These people are just doing it all for self-interest.
Well, it's old school Italian mafia. You don't harm women or kids.
Yeah.
But these deviants, just trafficking girls from Eastern Europe that are kids and then having orgies with them and having them have sex with each other with strap-ons. That's a different level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you concerned that you might not have your facts right in regards to pointing the finger at the Clintons? Have you naturally investigating this before you go out on a video and say these things? You got to think, I better fucking have this right, because you haven't got you've got a lot of evidence, but you haven't got the picture, the thing that proves that Clinton did it. You've got 27 times on a plane that was used in a lot of sex crimes, but you haven't got the final piece of the puzzle here. Are you concerned that you might have it wrong?
And you never will with the Clintons, because it all gets swept under the carpet. All of my research is based on the Arkansas State Police who work for Bill Clinton, the ones who are still alive, that is, and the victims' statements about what actually happened with them and these elite paedophiles. So the trajectory of the Arkansas murders, I believe, goes all the way to Epstein. I'm not saying that Bill Clinton solely was the grand conspirator, but I think he is definitely at the top of that pyramid. So I've written extensively about Pablo Escobar. So let's say the Cali cartel and the Medellin cartel are not at war, they're at peace. So say someone in Cali has pissed off Pablo Escobar and that person's got to go. So Pablo Escobar would get on the phone to Gilberto, the head of the Cali cartel, and say, this person's got to go. Now let's look at this in the context of Epstein. So you've got the legal eruption was in America. The liability was there. Who's just come out of government in America? Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. They've got a massive power base in politics in America. Who's the other person who's got the most to lose about this? Who people are focusing on? Prince Andrew, the royal mafia. So you get the royal, Prince Andrew puts a call in to Clinton or whoever over there.
They've got a common goal.
This is on your turf.
Yeah.
You got to clean this up, basically.
Yeah.
That's how I think it went down, something like that.
Mm-hmm. In regards to Clinton, you've got a bit of proof in that he silenced people. Have you looked into the testimonies from those victims, or are they completely silenced? Have they? Because you know how they have to sign in an NDA or whatever. Have any of them spoken out after that or not?
Well, some have done stuff over the years. Mm-hmm. They did stuff with Trump, so I'm not exactly sure, under the terms of their non-disclosure agreements, how they were able to do all that. But some have spoken out, and anyone can Google online, Bill Clinton, sexual assault suits, non-disclosure agreements, and you'll see all that stuff will come right up.
I suppose with non-disclosure agreement, if you're just sitting there as part of what most people say is a random group, you've not legally disclosed anything. You could be sitting there just randomly, couldn't you?
Like in The Godfather, when they brought in the relative and he was about to testify.
Exactly.
That's a mafia move right there.
This person just happens to be there, and Bill Clinton obviously knows who that is. But yeah.
So can we go into the circumstances around Epstein's death?
Yes.
So you described how the second time the journalist found out he'd been going with these women in the prison. What happened from that then? How did he get... Because he was on day release. It seemed like he was allowed to leave the prison during the day.
Okay, so when one of these elite paedophile power players is uncovered at that level, they'll sacrifice the lower level in a heartbeat, but at the higher level of Epstein, the paedophile circle will protect that person as far as possible. So in the first case, the sweetheart deal, Acosta was the prosecutor who handled that for the paedophile circle. He was given Epstein was given this pass. And Acosta, has took all this criticism for that, and he was part of Trump's government now as well. So this all, like I said, the incestuous thing. Once the media frenzy gets so big that this powerful circle can no longer protect even a high-level player, then that player gets sacrificed. So with Jimmy Savile, they protected him. And he died.
To the end.
To the end. Yeah. They protected him to the end. With Epstein, they tried to protect him on the first round, but on the second round, he had to go.
So with Savile, because he was really, really old, when it all came out about him after he died, there was no need to worry because there was no he wasn't going to uncover any, he wasn't going to give any testimony. So it was like it all died with him. Whereas they didn't have that luxury with Epstein, did they?
It's the criminal case, once it gets into the court system, and things are documented legally, certain government agencies have to act on that information. So that's why Epstein was killed, because to stop that from arising. And that's why Ghislaine Maxwell and Jean-Luc Brunel will be next.
So before we get into that, the second case happens after that brave journalist who you mentioned uncovers more of his issues.
Yeah.
Is that what led him to go into this prison cell where he eventually killed himself, allegedly killed himself?
They couldn't protect him anymore. He's now saying that he's going to start giving up names. He says, I'm going to give up 5 names because he wants to cut a deal to try and get his sentence reduced. He's getting legal visits all day long. There's no way he thinks he's going to lose this case. Again, he's thinking, I'm going to play the system. He's got this thing called a double jeopardy motion filed in the court system. And what that means is you cannot be convicted twice of the same crimes. So, and here we go again, round 2 for the same crimes. So he thinks he's going to play the system again and get out of it. He's even telling his lawyers, this is going to work out. Even right up until the end, he's got all these legal visits all day long. He's in good spirits. But if you go to 3 weeks prior to his death, that's when the weird things started to happen. So we've got the 2 grand conspiracies that are described, and we've named some of the major players. And there's probably a lot more people out there that are co-conspirators. But now we've also got to look at the methods of the murder and the instrument of the murder and how that was played out. Because I do have a suspect of the instrument who either did it or has knowledge of what actually happened.
So to my knowledge, there was a suicide attempt before the final day he died. Is that right? When he was in
3
prison?
weeks prior to his death, he was found unconscious in his jail cell with injuries to his neck. Now, in prison, there's a rule when you go in. I think we talked about this in Wolf of Wall Street 1, where the gang members come up to you right away, and it's a charge check. What are your charges? So if you've got a sex offence, it's KOS, kill on sight. And these gang members will do that right away if you're going to get attacked at the very least. So they put into Epstein's cell this massive guy, Nicholas Tartaglione, who's murdered 4 dudes in a drug deal gone bad. He lured them to his brother's nightclub, I think. 4 dudes, and I think they were buried in his garden or something like that. This guy was also an ex-cop.
Right.
So he's got ties to law enforcement as well. Now, the natural order of things in prison is such that if you've murdered 4 people and someone gets put in your cell that is a sex offender, I don't know any case where that guy would not attempt to murder that person, even without getting paid off to do it. But I also believe that there's a possibility that this guy's facing the death penalty. Someone could have said, hey, do us a favor here and we'll only give you life in prison, or we'll give you 25 and you'll be up for parole after 25. There could have been some kind of quid pro quo like that. Because if you look at photos of this guy, Nicholas Tartaglione, it's like, oh my God.
Are they openly available online?
Yeah, Nicholas Tartaglione.
Google images, boom.
Put Epstein's cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, and you should flash a photo of that up on the video just so people can see.
Our editor will be right on that.
If ever there was
is he a big guy?
If ever there was
look.
He's got a lot of dogs though. It's quite sweet, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Mate, he's a fucking giant.
He's a killing machine, isn't he?
Squeezing someone's head off their fucking shoulders for him wouldn't be too much trouble.
He could rip Epstein's head straight off.
No problem. Pop it off.
Yeah.
Okay,
so let's go back to the 3 weeks.
He looks like your worst nightmare as a cellmate.
Oh my God, he looks even bigger in that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Let's
go to that size in prison.
They get steroids smuggled in.
No shit.
Man.
So Epstein is found unconscious in the cell 3 weeks prior to his death. Epstein said to his lawyers that he was attacked by this guy. And after the incident, he was placed on suicide watch. 6 days later, on July 29th, he was taken off suicide watch and placed in a special housing unit with another inmate. Epstein's close associates said he was in good spirits. Now, if you're going to take someone out in prison, you've got to make it look like a normal method that prisoners use to kill themselves. And there's all kinds of different methods prisoners use to kill themselves. So you got hanging, people can just get bed sheets, try and hang from the ceiling or the windows, or they can just lean without even put their own weight on them, or flush the sheet down the toilet and lean it. I had ex-prison guard on my true crime podcast, Neil Samworth, and he was talking about, he found a corpse that was just leaning like that forward. That's how he'd hung himself. a hot shot, which is an overdose of heroin. 90% of prisoners injecting drugs where I was housed. Gang member doesn't like you, sticks a needle in you, overdose of heroin. Guards find that's just another dead junkie as far as they're concerned. Jumping. You got people jumping off balconies. Sometimes in Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail, they wouldn't even die. They'd just break their legs, break their spines, and they'd still be alive in the jail. You got suicide by guard. I once saw this guy just run past my cell. He had like a neckerchief over his face with like a 1 foot long shank. He's at the fence just yelling at the guard, yelling at the guards. They bring out a SWAT team with live rounds and they're all just facing him and they're going to just mow him down, but he backed down at the last minute, so they didn't kill him.
But yeah, if you wanted to just run at them,
they're going to just wipe you out.
Yeah, exactly.
You die pretty quick that way.
Yeah. Then you got hunger strike, and you got people doing crazy stuff like drinking bleach, eating razor blades, all kinds. So of all of those methods, if you're going to whack someone in a jail, I reckon hanging and hot shot are going to be the two easiest to facilitate to get away with it.
And hanging seems like the one that would be the most believable, that he did it, and therefore, right, there's nothing to say here, let's all move on with our lives.
How easy is it to just choke someone out and put them to sleep?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you watch any UFC fight, you'll know how to do that pretty quickly. So this guy could have been choked out and then just, we'll just pop the bed sheet round his neck afterwards, and there you go.
Sprinkle some crack on it.
Yeah.
Run away.
But not only that, the video footage from around that time in the prison.
Oh God!
The cameras all malfunctioned.
It's 9/11 all over again, Lawrence.
This happens a lot.
Yeah.
Whoever's installing the cameras.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You work with cameras all the time.
All the time.
How often does the cameras fail?
Unless it's Roven working with them, they don't malfunction often. I'll be
no, I'll not have a bad word said about him.
Yeah.
So that makes it massively suspicious.
And the guards on duty all fell asleep.
No way.
To be fair, was a Sunday night. So.
Yeah. Can I ask? So, do you know where? Do you know how CCTV in a prison works?
Yeah.
So, does it go to one central place? What does it do? Like, do you necessarily know that, or does it go to an office in the prison, or does it go to somewhere else where it's then kept?
Okay, so
where is it recorded?
Yeah.
In Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail, where guards were murdering mentally ill prisoners, and I've got videos of them doing it on my YouTube channel. I obtained that footage. So
just to be clear,
Yeah.
you know, Sean, earlier when you said, I don't know why I'm getting demonetized.
I mean, literally, pal. You probably have better luck if you just knocked a wank out and uploaded that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely clear, Sean. You're a smart guy. Come on, let's connect the dots.
Okay, so how did you obtain that footage, for example?
Okay. All of the cameras are viewing all of the major areas,
right?
Like the day rooms and the hallways, and the prisoners going in and out of the cells and stuff like that. And some of the cameras can see into the cells as well. So all that footage is stored by the agency running the prison. So that was Arizona State in my case. In this case, it's the feds that would have had that video material. Now that video material becomes obtainable when there are lawsuits and people suing court, and it forces the prison to release the footage.
Right.
So in the case of the clip I got, family members of the victims of the guards sued the jail, and the jail was forced to release that video footage through the federal court system.
Right.
So that's how this footage comes out through the courts. But if the cameras have malfunctioned, you can file suit all day long, it's never going to come out. If the guards have fallen asleep, and if Nicholas Tartaglione has got earbuds in that night so he conveniently can't hear anything... And
big men, we need earbuds.
Yeah.
But to be fair to him, I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, that must be terrible.
So Nicholas was not Epstein's cellmate at this point in time. So a lot of people are saying, so obviously Nicholas didn't kill Epstein because he was been moved to a different cell.
This was after the attack had happened. So
after the first attack.
All right, so they moved him on after
in a neighbouring cell, though. Now, it is not difficult for prisoners to open their cell doors and go into other prisoners' cells. I've seen it happen.
Are they not locked off, though?
Yeah, they've got all kinds of different ways of getting in people's doors.
Okay.
They jimmy the locks and they put things in the locks, and before people get locked down, they put things in their locks.
Okay.
So
and if the prison guards are like, yeah, let's just let this happen, then it's very, very easy then. Okay.
Yeah. Tartaglione, I believe, is at the top of the murder suspect list. And even if he didn't do it with his bare hands, he has information. He knew what went on in that area on that night, and he knows a lot more that could possibly come out in the court system.
Do you know where he is now?
Yeah, he's getting
released on Monday.
He's getting punished right now. Let me just say one other thing. The injuries that have been released to Epstein's neck, he had a hyoid fracture. And a hyoid fracture is more common with someone getting strangled to death than it is with suicide. You can't rule suicide out, but it's way more common with homicide.
There's a different kind of trauma created when you're strangled than when you're allowing it to happen, isn't it? Because there's a struggle, isn't it? It's a total different thing going on.
And that's why this is such a brilliant way to kill someone and make it look like a death is by strangulation, because there's that overlap between the two. So the marks were more consistent with being choked than hanging himself, one expert said. Tartaglione was wearing...
Is this expert, sorry to interrupt you, mate, is this expert someone who's actually seen the body?
These are all medical experts that have given their opinions online, various. So Tartaglione was wearing earbuds when investigators went to question him about the incident. Epstein was found dead in the cell at Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City at 6:30 a.m. on August 10th, 2019. And the conventional news story was that he committed suicide because the conditions were so bad in the Metropolitan Correctional Center. Nobody heard anything, said Tartaglione's lawyer.
He was listening to his Rihanna album, apparently.
At the time,
Loved it.
It was a silent act, says Tartaglione's lawyer.
Wow.
Nick knows a hell of a lot about what went on. He was there during the first attempt, and he was there when he actually killed himself. He just wasn't in the same cell. So FBI and Justice Department Inspector General have launched investigators into Epstein's death. And like I said earlier, you've got the dad of the headmaster, who is one of the investigators. Tartaglione has not been contacted by investigators. He's facing the death penalty. And whether or not he'll be in a position to cooperate remains unclear, his lawyer said.
He'll be next, though, won't he? They'll bump him off next, because what they'll have done is they'll have agreed something with him, and then they'll get rid of him.
Well, he'll be like with Kennedy. It was Oswald and then Jack Ruby. he went off, didn't he? Tartaglione certainly has information that would be very valuable to the investigation if they want access to it. So Tartaglione, they're saying that he's been kicking off about the conditions, so they've been punishing him for that in the jail.
Right.
Big men get uncomfortable easy. I empathise with them a lot.
Yeah.